Hi everyone,
Good morning.
it's my mom Eleanor, and I haven't seen her for a bit. And we're here reading my book, Thriving at Nature's Pace. I've been away to a conference in Assisi, where St. Francis of Assisi was born and lived, and that was last week. And then I came back, and unfortunately, I caught a cold, and obviously, I didn't want to come and bring it to mum, so I kept myself away. But I'm feeling a bit better. Definitely not kind of contagious, I don't think so. So we're back. And this week we're all looking forward to my niece's wedding, which will be on Friday. So we're kind of very much looking forward to that. So where are we now? So coming back to this, let's carry on. We are on the chapter about how money works, and this time we're getting to the part of introducing about central banks. So in his 1962 essay, Should There Be an Independent Monetary Authority?, Friedman advocated for a bank that acts under a mandate. He offered a suggestion for the mandate to fix the amount by which money grows each year. This has since led to the establishment of independent central banks with inflation targets. If the amount of goods are unchanged, then the amount by which money grows is the amount by which prices will grow. The philosophy behind this is that a stabilized rate of inflation provides the best opportunities for everyone, rich and poor alike. This comes from historic lessons of runaway inflation in the 1970s and also from early experiences for hyperinflation, especially in Germany, in the period between the two world wars. However, this does not provide the best opportunity for the planet. Problems come because keeping inflation steady inevitably forces more resources to be used each year. That is how a period of time the environment gets irreversibly damaged. How over a period of time the environment gets irreversibly damaged and climate change is made worse. The actual practice is worse for the environment because the inflation that central banks are charged to keep stable is consumer price inflation. This is change in the price of shopping basket of goods that the typical household buys. It includes things like groceries and clothing. It also includes the cost of transport, education for the kids, and the occasional holiday in the sun. When central banks do this, they focus on the predictable contributions. This is the core inflation. It dismisses the more unpredictable contributions from food and energy, which are exposed to one-off price increases. These one-off increases can come from the impact of weather on one year's crop harvests or the delay caused by a major hurricane on a petroleum shipping port. This is a carryover from a world where the physical world stays the same year after year. It's a monumental mistake going forward as climate change worsens. Impact from climate shocks on economic activities will become permanent and will dominate the economy with totally unpredictable results. In addition to focusing only on the predictable contributions to consumer price inflation, central banks also use hedonic adjustments to disregard price increases that come from quality improvements. An example is a cost increase in a new model of a smartphone. The new model may have a second or third camera. Because of this, the price increase is not considered inflation. It is considered instead as coming from an improvement. The problem to consumers is that the older model is no longer available and the consumer is forced to pay the higher price. Whether price increases justly because of quality improvement or not, if the consumer has no choice but to pay, it is inflation and hurts the pocket all the same. Across the economy, everything has had some improvements made over time. From the world's resource perspective, they all use more resources and make climate change worse. From a human experience perspective, some of these make life easier, others do not. From a central banking perspective, they are all improvements that do not contribute to inflation, and therefore these activities do not need to be curbed. That makes central bank policies blind to the damage to the environment. These policies do not care whether the improvements are fundamentally damaging the livability of the planet or not. In fact, the policies often deliberately make climate change worse by explicitly forcing superfluous and damaging activities to increase. During the 14 years after the great financial crisis which started in 2008, the world was facing a collapse of the banking system. Governments and policymakers wanted to make sure there was enough money around. Central banks lowered interest rates to incentivize people to use money rather than to keep money safe. In Europe, the European Central Bank, ECB, ultimately lowered interest rates to 0% in 2012. This was initially thought that this would be as low as interest rates can get. Then in 2014, the ECB started to take interest rates negative. They set the amount of interest depositors can earn leaving money in the bank to negative. That is, depositors lost money each day, their money stayed in the bank. This punished institutions with large cash balances. Negative interest rates mean that depositors get less back than what they deposited when they go to withdraw their money. They face having their money confiscated if they keep it in a bank. The global financial crisis came about because of excessive lending that encouraged people to chase dreams. People, businesses, and communities were wary of repeating the same mistake. The ECB's policy was to punish them for this caution. It set a policy to make sure that any investment was better than having to face the embarrassment of explaining why money was confiscated. This prompted all manner of innovations that had the sole purpose of exploiting people looking for a safe place to keep their money. Residential property saw a new boom, and affordable housing became an innovation. Entrepreneurs made money by imaginative labeling. A lot of dubious ventures were funded. The decade that followed the great financial crisis was genuinely terrible for the planet. It created a startup culture that sought to expand as fast as possible at any cost. This reinforced the mentality that making money for the sake of making money is the be-all and end-all of commerce. Ventures to satisfy fictitious needs overwhelmed innovations to resolve genuine needs. Among this, the story of building renewables became more important than the need to end the reign of oil and gas and coal. Resource demands rose and oil and gas and coal use increased. Instead of rebuilding a better future and setting the modern economy on a path of reducing greenhouse gas emissions, the policies deliberately accelerated the destruction of the environment with a view to a more wasteful future. All this happened without consumer price inflation picking up. It was achieved by siphoning money into investments, and investments locked away the money for long-term assets. When a company like Facebook buys masses of data servers to help it expand, it locks away the investment money into the data server for a long time. During that period, wealthy people and companies could buy mega yachts by borrowing money at zero or even negative interest rates. That is, they were being paid to borrow, and rent out the yachts to make more money. Others could be paid to deforest rainforests. Money is fungible. When one part of a project can be financed with zero or negative interest rates, it effectively is financing the most damaging part of the project. Inflation did happen, but it was in asset inflation. This is inflation in the things that can be invested in. This pushed up the price of investment assets, that is, things like property and companies. Fund managers saw the level of stock markets climb and chased after it. They saw the valuation of startup ventures shoot up and followed. Their investment gains boosted their personal compensations. The excesses accelerated resource use and emptied the planet, and irreversibly sped up climate change. Central bankers consciously caused this. Even as they dismissed asset inflation as benign, they were too well connected and too clever not to be aware of the damage the policies were doing to climate change and the environment. Nature has no place in Friedman's role as a central banker. However, asset inflation is not benign. Building houses that people cannot afford massively damages the planet for no good purpose. It comes about because interest rates are too low. So, Mum, let's finish with that one.
Como central bank 喺邊度啊？
The central bank 喺邊度？喺香港咧? So Mum is asking where's the central bank. So in Hong Kong, there's a Hong Kong Monetary Authority. So they set the interest rate to control the amount of money. In the case of Hong Kong, because the Hong Kong currency is pegged to the US dollar, they do that also to make sure that it stays pegged. In the US, the central bank is the US Federal Reserve Bank. And I think its main building is New York. And it's a system of banks in each of the states, but there's one central one, and that controls the interest rate for the US, and so it controls how much US dollars is generally available. And then in Europe, in Europe, as in the EU, that is the European Central Bank, and that is headquartered in Frankfurt. And that controls the amount of money for the Eurozone area that is available in euros. And of course, the UK is separate. It has its own central bank. It's called the Bank of England. And the head of that is called the governor of the Central Bank of England. The other people are presidents and so on, but in the UK, it's the governor. And that sets the interest rates for the UK. The UK is one of the last one to be independent. Before, it was always the Chancellor of Exchequer who decides. And that obviously makes it much more political in that way. So at the moment, with everything going on in the world, there is the problem that people feel money needs to be more easily available. But when you have more money available, what happens? People just spend it. So you end up spending it on all the things, not necessarily the things that you should. But that's a hard kind of, discipline to really think what you should. So actually, it's one thing I want to add. I was in Assisi, St. Francis of Assisi, who famously kind of gave away his wealth. And what I realized was that it wasn't so much he gave away his wealth, but when you have a sense that you don't have everything that you have, you become richer because you are more aware of that sense. You're more aware of the need for connections, for relationships, and all the things that can help along the way. But when you have everything, then you kind of dismiss all of those. So you don't call anyone anymore or whatever it is. You just go to the parties and all those things. So I think that's something which is actually quite interesting, quite a revelation. And of course, central banks don't really do that. By and large, what they want to do is to persuade people that actually they can have the money that they want when they need it, without causing too much kind of prices to go too much, because then they won't be able to feel that they can have the money they want when they need it. So, okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
See you tomorrow.